Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia, and today we're going to be talking about my February reading journal, doing my setup of that, and also talking about my February TBR. I was thinking about including my January reads in this video, however, I think I'm going to go with a quarterly sort of theme for that, just because I think when I do it monthly, it's not like an in-depth review, but it's not a quick review either, and I'm not sure if I feel like it's more valuable to either do a quick review or an in-depth review. So we're going to be going with quarterly and quick reviews, but feel free to let me know in the comments if you like the sort of more middle length reviews. I'm planning to still do occasional in-depth reviews of either books that are more popular or that I really enjoyed or have a lot to say about. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into my reading journal, and then we will come back and talk about my February TBR. Alright, welcome back to my reading journal. As you can see, I decided to go with a medieval illuminated manuscript type theme. And originally my kind of thought was just that I wanted to do something that was kind of type focused, and was originally kind of thinking more like a modern, large font type of thing. But then I remembered that I had been thinking about some sort of medieval theme, and I decided to go with that instead. I think it kind of probably fits the vibe of reading journal a bit more, although my last theme for January was quite modern. Well, it was retro, but compared to medieval, positively modern. And so I'm actually starting with my TBR page this time. Normally I start with the title page, but I figured it made sense to go left to right, trying to avoid some of the smudging from the amount of black ink that I'm going to be using in this setup, which, spoiler alert, it didn't work. I smudged ink everywhere. I should probably put a tissue or something under my hand when I'm doing this kind of thing, just because it tends to get on the side of my hand and I don't notice, and then I put my hand down somewhere on the page and then we have just black ink everywhere. And yeah, that does happen quite a bit here, and I'm still sort of debating if I want to put a fresh piece of paper down over these two, I don't know what you'd call them, arches, because I did get a lot of ink smudged inside them. So I don't know, that was a thought. Well, realistically, I'm probably not going to do it. Anytime I say that I'm thinking about doing something in my reading journal, if I don't do it when I finish recording this, it's just simply not going to happen. I just never go back to it really. So yeah, it's probably going to stay smudged, but well, it's fine. It doesn't matter that much. Also, I apologize for the top of my head. Unfortunately, when I draw, I just tend to put my nose inches from the paper, and I tend to forget that there's a camera going. So, enjoy the top of my head. I know a lot of illuminated manuscripts, when I was looking at references and stuff, they tend to be quite colorful, and the gold is the backdrop. But I wanted to go for something more minimal here. So we're just doing black and gold, which I think is a really nice contrast. And I think if I had tried to add more colors, I don't think I would have liked it as much. So yeah, we're sticking with a very kind of minimal thing, and the decoration that I'm using for the corners is just a sword and just some sort of leafy vine type things. And I tried to make the leaves kind of I don't know if you looked at many medieval manuscripts, but the leaves tend to be kind of funky shapes and not just kind of an oval. So I tried to go for that. I'm not sure if they'll really look like leaves, but honestly, looking at some of the examples of illustrated manuscripts, some of the stuff they got on there doesn't look like what I think it's supposed to be anyway. So, this is lore accurate, I suppose you could say. But you can kind of see now, the smudging that I was talking about. There's a big smudge right by the F. I don't really know how that happened. I started trying to check my hands and rub off any ink if I noticed it, but I mean, mixed success there. And you can also see all the smudging on the left page there, but what can you do? We move. So the main focus I wanted to be the text. So even though I did go kind of big on like the corner decorations here. It was mostly just because in order for this to be an arch shape on a square paper, it had to have a lot of space in the top. And I think if I had just colored it all in black, it would have been very boring. So that's why I added these kind of corner decorations. And plus medieval manuscripts, like the illustrated ones, not illustrated, illuminated. They're kind of illustrated as well. But they tended to have a lot of like text decoration going on. And I wanted to match that vibe a little bit. Now, it may have been easier to do the gold on top of the black. And the gold pen I have was actually very like saturated. And so in areas where I did do the gold second, which is, you'll see when I do the F, I do the gold second, it does like cover up the black. So I could have done the gold second. But the problem was I wanted to like sketch out the design before I did it. And I didn't think I would be able to really sketch it on top of the marker. And so if I did the marker first, I would have had to freehand it, and that rarely ends well. Like, I can do it to some degree, but it's not going to be as neat and nice as I want it to be. So we did have to do the black second, which was kind of annoying because then you have to go in between all the little elements, and I like outlined it with a really fine marker first and then made it slightly wider and then went in with this big marker. So, you know, it definitely probably slowed down the process, but I prefer that the decorations match slightly more. So that's why I did it that way. And for most of the coloring in, I'm just using a Crayola marker, just like the normal Super Tips, the ones I use all the time. And it's definitely not as good ink as in my like fine liner type markers, like the microns and stuff. But those are expensive, and I didn't want to waste all of the ink from them doing that. And I also don't have I might have a brush tip one, but I think it might be dry. So it would have taken literally forever to do that, and I'm not about that life. So I think the Crayola one works fine enough. It's a little bit sheer in places. You can kind of see where the strokes overlap, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me all that much. It bothers me a little bit looking at it now, but I think it's good enough. And I think it would have physically pained me to do it with the microns, just like knowing like, coloring all these pages probably just cost me like 50 cents or something of the ink in this marker, or maybe even more. So yeah, we went with the Crayola. I like it. I think it turned out fine. And then outside of the like illuminated letter that I'm doing for the F, I just went with kind of a, I don't know if you would call this black letter. I should have checked before I started recording this, but here we are. Sort of medievally type font that I was kind of looking at, like I said, examples of illuminated manuscripts, trying to figure out what the other font would be outside of like the fancy like beginning letters. And there was a variety, like some more like script type things like cursive, and then some stuff that was kind of more like this. I didn't really think that a script type font would suit here, so I went for this. And I don't know what happened with the camera lens here. I think it must have just had a smudge on it and I didn't notice. So it is a little bit kind of foggy from here on out, but we are on the last page, so it should be fine. We should survive. But we are doing now the Pages Red spread, which is one that I still have to fill out for January. I mean, it is technically only the 26th, but I tend to get very behind on actually filling out my reading journal. I haven't made a single spread in January yet, and I'm still trying to catch up on all the spreads in my reading journal from last year. So, you know, the actual use of my reading journal is a little bit scattered, not always the most consistent, but I'm doing my best. And I'm going to make it my goal to have actually finished filling out all of my January spreads before the end of February, which is still kind of like behind, but, you know, it's too late to say the end of January now. I only have a few days left and I have to go to work, so it's not going to happen. And then we are flipping back to my year-end theme spread. I don't believe that I actually showed me doing the January one, but I just did like a simple kind of rainbow because it was like a rainbow retro theme. And for this one, I'm doing my illuminated F, and I am going to color it all in black, which does mean that we are going to lose the February label at the bottom. However, February has come after January every year for my 27 years of existence, and I don't foresee that changing soon. So, you know, I think I can remember that this is February, and if I'm having trouble, the F will be a good hint. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the reading journal. Just finishing up this little bubble here. It's starting to look good. I mean, obviously there's a lot still to do, but I like the vibe. So let's go ahead and talk about my February TBR. All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my reading journal setup. Now we're going to talk about the books that I am interested in reading in February. So we'll start with the physical books that I have, because I have kind of a lot in my library digital book section. So first, I have been putting off reading Into the Narrow Dark, not Into the Narrow Dark, that's the last one. I have been putting off reading Navigator's Children by Tad Williams for no particular reason other than like it came out a little bit before Wind and Truth, and I didn't want to get mired into this one when Wind and Truth came out because I wanted to start it right away. And then I was like traveling and various like Christmas holiday, and it's a big book, so I didn't want to carry it with me. But now I'm home and I have no excuse not to get stuck into this. I've been waiting for it for a long time. So yeah, I'm excited to read it, but it is going to take a while. The words are small in Ted Williams' books, and new book smell. And his writing isn't like, it's not like the slowest writing to read, but it's not the fastest either. So I foresee this taking a good chunk of time, but I really want to try to get to it in February so that I can finally be finished with the world of Austin Ard. And then I also received these 3 books from my sister. We have A Day in the Life of Abed Salama. We have Anatomy of a Jerusalem Tragedy. We have Lone Women by Victor Laval, and we have the Traveling Cat Chronicles. These are all just kind of very different books from what I usually read, and they're all quite short, so they'll be kind of interesting diversions from my usual reads. I won't say fun, because I think most of these are kind of like sad. This might be kind of fun. I don't really know what this is, but I don't want to put all of them on my list for February, just because I just don't. But I think the one that I am going to put on my February list is the Traveling Cat Chronicles. It's just so cute. I love cats, and I want to read it, and that's my reasons. And then the final physical book that I'm going to talk about is Assassin's Quest. This is book 3 in the Fitz and the Fool, the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. It's the first trilogy in her Realm of the Elderling series, and I reread the first 2 last year, so I want to finish my reread of the trilogy with this one. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So on to my library holds. I made a list of everything that I am likely to get my hold for in February. A couple of these actually I've already got. So I wrote down Murderbot, I have that already, and I also already have Piranesi. So actually 3 of these I already have. So I'm probably going to finish all 3 of those before February even starts, because I'm almost done Murderbot. Piranesi is also short, and the third one is a short audiobook. So that tangent aside, the ones that are likely to come in, we have A City on Mars, which is a nonfiction about like how you might go about building a city on Mars. I don't know, did I just say it was an audiobook? I didn't. It's not an audiobook. What I'm trying to say is I usually get my nonfiction books on audio. However, for this one, they didn't have an audiobook, so I got just like a digital copy. We shall see how that goes. We also have coming in Homeland by R.A. Salvatore, Parable of the Sower by Octavia U. Butler. That's a one that I've been kind of thinking about reading for a long time. I've heard a lot about, I'm sure you've heard about her and probably that specific book if you've been around on the book community. We also have To Eat This World by Julie Cernetta. This is an author where I bought a book of hers randomly and then found out it was book 3 of the series, so I haven't actually read anything by her yet, but I'm interested too. Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie, Wool by Hugh Howley, and Soldiers and Kings, and I just wrote down the last name, D. Leon. It's quite a list. I'm probably not going to get to them all, but the good thing about the digital holds is if it comes in and you're not ready, you can delay it and give it to the next person, or delay it for even longer. So we have some wiggle room there. I'm not really sure which ones I specifically want to read. I'll probably try to keep up with the holds as much as possible, so whatever comes in next is probably going to be my February read, but I also have several physical books that I want to get to. I kind of put in a lot of holds at the library because nothing was like directly available, so I was just like looking through the catalog, like putting these on holds when I first got my e-reader, and now they're all coming in and I'm very overwhelmed. But yeah, that is my February reading journal setup and my TBR. I would say that probably Into the Narrow Dark is maybe my top priority for February. I really want to finish it, and then I can say I'm finished the series. And I also have one other series that I'm putting off. So I need to wrap some up, so I can move on. But I think that is all that I have to say. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.